Hi and welcome to the Die House Drumworks. The track that we're looking at here is Crazy Prog from the Rockschool Grade 6 syllabus. A good demonstration of the mighty 1970s British progressive rock movement, I feel this track is. So certainly we'll want to name checks artists or acts like Emerson, Lake and Palmer or ELP, well worth a listen to for this kind of style. Also, I think there's a bit of a smattering of Cream. Don't know where it comes from, a smattering of Cream in the middle of the second page there. The track White Room is worth having a listen to because it's got a very sort of similar feel. Actually, at the beginning of White Room's got a similar kind of thing to what's going on in the middle of the track here. So, big sort of wide dynamics we've got in this track. Very important to almost exaggerate them a little bit. I think part of the trick when you're pushing dynamic playing is to try and exaggerate dynamics to the point where you feel that it's going too far. So yeah, try and push your dynamics a little bit further, especially with two Fs or two Ps, so fortissimo or pianissimo respectively. We're stretching the dynamics out a little bit more at this level. So, you know, see how far you can go with that. It takes a lot of control on the kit in both, in any extreme, whether it's extremes of tempos or extremes of dynamics. You're developing control all the time. Playing loud and controlling what you're doing is not easy. And similarly, playing very, very quietly and controlling what you're doing isn't easy as well. So it's important to develop these disciplines. As far as the track's concerned, we've got a lot of syncopation. One of the sort of touchstones, I think, of progressive rock music is using rhythm and texture. A lot of it is down to the instrumentation a little bit more rather than playing songs as such. So we're not actually really thinking of backing a singer in quite the same way as we might in normal rock and pop sort of environments. It's a little bit more where the instruments tend to collectively take the front line a little bit more in the music. So the music itself is kind of the focal point rather than necessarily being an accompaniment to a lyric line. So there's a lot of opportunity to demonstrate what the kit can do here. Reading wise, I think probably by the time you've got to grade 6, crotchets, quavers, semi-quavers should be pretty comfortable to you. There's a couple of things technique wise that are tricky. The old bass drum technique thing again, we've got some quite busy bass drums and some pairs of 16th bass drums, which again I think I mentioned in the East Coast tutorial that we'll go through. I'll do a separate video for that. Sticking wise, there's also, we've got the same kind of compromise in the sticking movement. When we get to the ride cymbal section at the top of the second page, is we've got pairs of 16th notes on the snare drum. So with one hand, tricky to get, but there's a little technique that we can use. If you have a look for the Moeller Technique, really is the thing we want to use at that point. So again, rather than me going through loads of Moeller Technique stuff here, probably wouldn't be appropriate for this track. But dig out the work of people like Don Famularo and Jim Chapin and see if you can back up your Moeller Technique knowledge. Use an up-down stroke there. So up stroke followed by downstroke. In quick succession. Will get you the pace of notes that you're after and also the dynamics. So the quiet first note, stroke, and then the stronger downstroke second time. There is also a little bit of a cheat that we can use there. Now, using cheats or cheating, is there such a thing? Well, what I would say, my take on this is that if you are working on an exam piece and there's one small element of the piece that's a bit of a sticking point for you, but you like the piece and the rest of it sounding great, I won't worry about it too much. It would be a shame to sort of bury ourselves under the weight of something that we can't play quite so well maybe in the piece, or we haven't quite got the technique together for, that should stop you from enjoying it and maybe even performing it in an exam. So what I would suggest, if that sort of technique, because it's a difficult business, that something like with the bass drum 16ths as well, it's tricky stuff and it takes a long time to learn. So a bit of a sort of get out to start off with here, if we're playing that ride cymbal section, so we're on the second page, second line down, first bar, we could try this movement. So actually coming over from the ride cymbal, playing the second of those two notes, the 16th note apart, actually with the right hand on the snare, as opposed to. So, that movement will keep your ride cymbal fluent and as notated, but the other way, you're using a pair of stickings there, left, right sort of movement. Watch out for the 5/4 bars. It's essentially like an extra crash on the end of what feels like a 4/4 bar. When we get to the drop section, so the middle of the second page, piano, crescendos over 16 bars. I think part of the trick there is to really pace the crescendo very quickly, very carefully. Quite the opposite of quickly, actually. If we build the dynamic up very gradually to start off with, it's what I call a flared crescendo. So rather than the crescendo, let's think, you'll be that way around. Rather than the crescendo increasing in a linear fashion, okay, like that, if we crescendo very gradually at the beginning and then make the bigger change towards the end of the crescendo, that can make for a more sort of exciting crescendo experience. So have a little experiment with that anyway and see if that works for you. Another thing in terms of the notation of the chart is that you've got a syncopated section, which follows the guitar and the bass, it's all unison. It's notated very similarly the 3 times it's notated in the chart, so top of the second page, second line up from the bottom of the second page and third line up. But they are notationally very slightly different from one another. Might not have picked that up. But it's worth having a look at those little changes. They you know, it provides a little bit of variation. I'm not sure whether an examiner necessarily would be expecting you to pick up all these tiny little nuances. Maybe they would be. You know, maybe the chart is notated exactly as the arranger intended. Might be a misprint. You just don't know. So try it as it's written. See if it works for you. And go with it if it does. So I'm going to play through this one now. Here we go.
Crazy prog. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Crazy Prog. Now there's something that I thought of as I was playing through the track there again. I can't think what it was now. No, it's completely gone. Yeah, actually, no, it's come back. The crescendos, we've got a lot of these tom crescendos. Again, you can use that sort of flared crescendo idea, can work well. One thing that I like to do with this one actually is to put two crescendos in. Because you're over 2 bars, as the band's sort of crescendoing, what we can do is sort of crescendo once and then drop down, then crescendo again, so we get. Which can be quite effective, especially when you've got long crescendos, because I think when you've given the game away to the listener that this is going to get louder, the predictability of that can be a bit less exciting. So, you know, that's another way that you could maybe treat longer crescendos, is to sort of create waves of crescendo, if you like. That can be quite fun. Another thing also is to consider how we deal with following the chart with these crescendos, because a lot of them are notated with crash cymbals at the beginning, and then the sort of floor tom, snare drum, bass drum movements as well. If we take that to the letter, that means a quiet cymbal crash, and sort of crescendo from a quiet cymbal crash. Now, if we lose that beat of 1, we can sometimes lose the drive of the music. So again, you need to treat each of these cases on their merits. But I certainly would advocate in this track hitting the count of 1 strongly. It's what we could sometimes maybe call a sforzando. You see the SFZ marking, where we might hit a suddenly loud accent and then drop down a crescendo, so we get. Rather than. It's a little bit more dramatic. Having said that, you can make the piano crescendo interesting, maybe by using perhaps the bell of the crash or the bell of the right at the beginning. So you're exaggerating the fact that it's come down to nothing at the beginning of the bar. Just a few more things to experiment with in terms of improvising. So good luck with that one.